lovely rose is named for Mrs. Pierre S. Dupont. And together with this, the handsome azalea Pierre Dupont commemorate in fitting fashion a name symbolic of an enduring contribution to the natural beauty of horticulture. For it was Mr. Pierre S. Dupont who, in 1921, presented to the world the living gardens of Longwood. Every day of the year, visitors delight in the varied vistas of this world-famous monument to the art of gardening. Free of charge and open every day, the gardens are located on an historic tract of a William Penn land grant dated 1700, located near Kennett Square, Pennsylvania. The gardens feature the renowned conservatories, over 3.5 acres under glass. While the gardens are open all day, the conservatories are open from 11 a.m. until 5 p.m. and for special evening events. The heritage of Longwood, preserved by a perpetual foundation established by Mr. Dupont, includes a variety of special charitable functions and renowned features, including social, cultural, and educational events. Here, the visitor finds much more than the camera can capture, far more than can be sketched in a brief visit. Not alone because of the acres of gardens, miles of avenues and pathways, and room upon room of growing beauty, but more because Longwood is not a static thing, not a frozen museum of flowers. It is an ever-changing, ever-developing display in which the skill and art of dedicated gardeners merge with imagination and dramatics to produce a panoply of floral surprises. But above all, like its individual blossoms, Longwood is a living, growing creation, sensitive to the changing seasons and nature's varying moods. Longwood Gardens is open the year round, not merely to welcome more visitors, but because nature's cycles, growth, and changing seasons are a vital part of Longwood's living gardens. Many changes and additions have been made since Longwood welcomed its first visitors. The parking and reception center with many features was completed in the early 60s to accommodate growing crowds and to screen the parking area from the gardens. Earlier, numerous features had been expanded and added, more areas developed. This remarkable sundial was added in 1945. A second interesting love temple was introduced in the early 60s. Another popular feature added around this time was the attractive tropical water lily pools, completed in 1957. New rock gardens and the heather garden were completed more recently. The Palm House adds a notable new feature to the many conservatory displays. And of course, passing time adds each year to the majesty and beauty of magnificent old trees and shrubs, while continuing care and grooming add to the mellowing beauty nature patiently matures. Above all, nature conducts her symphony of changing seasons, each movement with its own beauty, its own moods. Winter's quiet sleep, and the brave awakening of first blooms, daring spring's chill breezes. And as spring's warmth calls forth new life and growth, the ground fairly bursts into bloom. Each changing season exhibits proudly its own special dress. Spring's gay panorama of blossoming trees and shrubs is replaced by the lush blooms of summer's bright days. Season after season offers its contrasts in Longwood's living gardens. Not only outdoors do nature's changing moods add enchantment, but even while snow-covered gardens sleep, the patterns and colors within the great conservatories are ever varying. The joyous Christmas displays featuring poinsettias are typical of seasonal and special holiday celebrations. Easter's triumphant message is proclaimed by lilies in spring blooms. And, as outside, the conservatory gardens are constantly changing. The year's cycle features famous favorites. Fascinating cymbidium orchids are the central theme in March and April. Chrysanthemums take center stage in November. The famous acacia display is featured from January to March. As a part of its policy of educational programs, most plants displayed are identified with both the popular and scientific names. Within the conservatory, not only is change and variety a product of passing times and seasons, but as it were, a tour of the world's gardens, with species of plants from Asia, Africa, the Orient, and South America. Orchids of almost uncountable variety. The strange pitcher plants of distant jungles. Bird of paradise. African violets in a wide range of varieties. And enchanting calceolaria in dozens of colors and markings. Tropical gardens feature the gigantic leaves and vines of the jungle, such as this banana. Of interest is the man-made tree devised to exhibit a wide variety of epiphytes, the air-growing plants of unusual designs which grow in trees. Truly American, and yet exotic to the Atlantic coast areas, the desert plant displays feature familiar and unfamiliar cacti, and succulent flowers such as devil's fingers, century plants, and the famed night-blooming cereus. Each section of the conservatory has its own character, its special charm in keeping with its displays, designed to provide a never-ending series of enchanting surprises. Of interest in one section of the main conservatory is a unique display of the art of espalier. Here, what ordinarily would be merely nice fruit trees are patiently coaxed and shaped into an ornamental pattern. The resulting decorative plants have a problem here because indoors they are not visited by the bees and insects which must brush their delightful blossoms and provide the pollination to produce fruit. Typical of behind-the-scenes skill and work needed at Longwood, we see the pollination accomplished by a fine spray of water on these blossoms. Does it work? Ample evidence in the attractive fruit. Such specialized handling of the varied plants to make them flourish and develop into finest specimens is an unending dedication of the Longwood staff. For the artful display and imaginative setting of plants and blooms is a valuable part of the art of gardening. That is why much of the work at Longwood goes on behind the scenes and exhibits are put on display in peak condition. That is also why the gardens abound in attractive examples of handiwork to enhance the floral displays. Carved stone and masonry, marble, pottery, and ceramics add their accents to the beauties of blossoms and gardens. Ornamental ironwork, intricate metal forms, and artistic grills appear, and literally hundreds of fountains. For most important in providing handsome and charming environment and settings, water sparkles at every turn within Longwood. From the spectacular waterfall to rippling streams, from cascading water stairs to quiet pools and rustic lake, water reflects and adds enchantment to the gardens. Fountains, large and small, singly or in ranks and patterns, add beauty, charm, and coolness in varied settings. The magnificent and famous formal fountains provide spectacular living displays both day and night. And here we find scattered surprises. These handsome fish are golden orth, abounding in the spring-fed lake. While in a quiet nearby pool, a pair of geese have set up housekeeping and take an exploratory swim to be admired while they admire the gardens. Yes, water and friendly creatures are indeed a part of these gardens. And so too are the magnificent relatives of the flowers, the handsome towering trees of many varieties which spread their canopy of shade over walks and glades. Lesser relatives, but far from bashful, shrubbery and bushes add much to the gardens. Azaleas in an almost unlimited spectrum of soft shades and handsome rhododendron. Flowers, trees, water, and man's handiwork combine at Longwood into an almost endless pattern of different scenes representing 100 moods of gardens. Contrast this vista of the waterfall and famous Chimes Tower with the magnificent Italian water gardens, where green and gray are offset by the sparkling waters, which are cool and formal compared with the new rock gardens. This rustic beauty, in turn, like another facet of a gem, adding to the beauty of the highly groomed topiary gardens, the vegetable gardens, or the casual beauty of the rose arbors, and an endless scattering of accents and surprises. The square garden, Roman love temples, the famous open-air theater, where concerts, ballet, light opera, and dramatic performances are presented. The overall effect, the varied and magnificent living gardens of Longwood, cannot be captured in a brief film. The inspiring gardens and charming scenes must be experienced by each individual. But as we conclude our camera tour, our eyes may feast on nature's garden as represented best in the lovely and exciting individual blooms that in truth make a garden. Here, in the finest examples the art of horticulture can display, are familiar favorites. And the more unusual exotics. Challenging the interest of blossoms are striking and unusual leaf types. Huge tropical leaves, feathery ferns, strange staghorn ferns, And finally, let us view nature's exciting spectrum. Chaste whites, the barely blushing pinks, the warming yellows, through a rainbow of lavenders, purples, and violets. The bold brassy yellows and triumphant orange. Crimson, vermilion, and unabashed scarlet. Subtle or bold, mixed and blended in striking combinations. Splashed like an inspired artist's palette, or a veritable kaleidoscope of color, textures, and forms. Rampant beauty, lifting the spirit and delighting the eyes in the living gardens of Longwood.